This is Jake Ciely, and I'm the blown ACL that ruins your football season.
Good news, everyone! Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool!
I know.
It feels so right!
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Nice try, Moonman. Pretending not to know. Earth's greatest mastermind!
You just made the list!
I thought you said that was a myth.
Just because it's a myth doesn't mean it's not true.
If you all blindly follow my plan, we may have a chance.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
Game on, you Ducks. It's another rough week, but we're going to get through week 9, the biggest takeaways, things you need to know for week 10, including some early waivers. So let's start with the real good. Kyle Monangai. Doesn't get much better than that. Pretty good. Except we just wish he got a touchdown. So obviously the question everybody's going to have is how much does this mean for Monangai and DeAndre Swift splitting going forward? I got this question asked on Sunday morning in the Discord, and I do think there'll be more of a split than we've seen, but I think probably 55-45. Maybe we get close to 55 or 50-50, but 55-45 is probably more what I expect. The biggest concern for Swift would be if Monangai forces more of the early, short, beefy touches like David Montgomery, and then DeAndre Swift is on the 45 side of the 55. But as we've seen with Ben Johnson, with Gibbs and Montgomery, that doesn't usually happen. It's usually the other way around. So anyway, point being, if people are panicking about Swift, I think this is another good buy opportunity. If you have Monangai, you probably want to hold. If you get top 20 value, you can look to flip him immediately, because I do think, like I said, there will be a split. But value for both. They're not going to be Gibbs and Montgomery, but they'll still be both really valuable RB2 3s most week, high ceilings, risk of a floor anytime you have a split like that. Roman Dunze, I don't know that he looked like he was 100%, potentially a buy low for you there, especially when Caleb Williams goes bonkers and you get a big fat 0 from Rome. That's a bad one. And then, of course, Colston Loveland had the huge game. I knocked him down in the ranks, of course. I had him as a tight end 1, and then Cole Kmet was active. Well, Cole Kmet gets a concussion, and Colston Loveland goes also bananas with the game-winning touchdown, which included a lot of bananas. They're good for your health. They prevent cramps. Get that potassium. Anyway, on the Bengals side of things, they have a bye next week, so some of their injuries are worth watching, but not necessarily active moves to make right now. T. Higgins possibly hurt. Obviously, Andre Yoshi! I don't think that's the sound he makes, would step up if he's out. And then Samaje Perine got hurt. His, actually, we might get some news on even while they're on our bye, because it looked pretty bad. But it was just Chase Brown turned into a bell cow. So if you didn't sell high before, just kind of hold on, because the sell high was the concern that he was going to be sitting in the 12 to 16 touch range. And it's just bell cow city for Chase Brown now, unless they make a move. Vikings and Lions, Aaron Jones was the lead. Aaron Jones was getting the majority of touches. But then he got hurt. So if Aaron Jones is fine, probably like I said, going into that game, we would expect a 60-40. I was actually more like 65 to 70% for Aaron Jones. But if he's hurt, Jordan Mason's right back into the top 20 conversation with bell cow-like work. Not much for the Lions side. The Lions are the Lions. And then Panthers and Packers, not much on the Panthers side except for, holy crap, Rico Dowdle. Is he sure Jonathan Taylor's not part-timing for the Panthers as well? But with the Packers situation, Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson are still their 1 and 2s. Jayden Reed, his time is coming soon, but I continue to recommend Christian Watson as a wide receiver 4 if you need help. And then the bad news on the tight end side of things, Tucker Kraft, they fear the worst. We'll get news probably maybe by the time you're listening to this, but if out, Luke Musgrave immediately steps in as a back-end tight end 1. Not as high as Kraft was, but definitely in that conversation where until Jayden Reed gets back, I think we could consider Musgrave over Kyle Pitts. I'll put it that way. Chargers and Titans. Kamani Vidal back to being the bell cow that we saw when he had opportunities this year and again now. So this year we don't know when Amari and Hampton is coming back. I mean, he can, but we don't know if he will, how healthy he'll be out of the gate. So Jarrett Patterson in deeper leagues, if you need him, I'm not trying to start him, but we wouldn't be surprised if Patterson, while Hampton is still out, all of a sudden gets 65% of the work. Chargers wide receivers or wide receivering. Quentin Johnston with the touchdown. The interesting thing there, though, is Keenan Allen's starting to see a big dip. They're continuing. I noticed this 2 weeks ago because I traded for Quentin Johnston, of course, and I watched Trey Harris out there on single wide receiver sets, especially for a lot of blocking. and that's also trickling down a bit to Keenan Allen. So just a real mess here. Again, Ladd McConkey, the only one inside the top 20, and then basically pick your poison from the rest. Well, Gadsden is still obviously usable as a tight end. On the Titan side, a little interesting change there. Ian Manor had the bigger day from the target share perspective, but he was actually third. Van Jefferson and DK were the ones that stayed out there. And DK was actually out there in 2 wide receiver sets and some single. Like, he was out there the most, running the most routes. So DK is the option, and then move on from everybody else. Hopefully, for DK's sake, Calvin Ridley doesn't come back. But if he does, maybe he just replaces Ian Manor. So something, not that we were getting value out of Ian Manor startable-wise, but might be able to move on from him if he doesn't get traded. That being Ridley. Falcons and Patriots. Falcons, Drake London. It was the Drake London day. The Patriots side, yes, the Terrell Jennings thing was kind of funny because this is what the Patriots do, and kind of frustrating, we'll be honest. But the good news is that TreVeyon Henderson was treated as the clear lead is that Terrell Jennings just got his share as well, and this is what you would expect going forward if Ramondre, or for as long as Ramondre Stevenson is out. If Ramondre Stevenson comes back, TreVeyon Henderson right back to an RB3 or 4. Kayshon Boutte got hurt for the Patriots. That's one to watch. Kyle Williams stepped up in that game. Mac Hollins would have been a replacement before, but he's banged up too. This is one of those situations where this might have been a mid-game adjustment. I'm going to go crazy for Kyle Williams. Deep league stash, even 12-team, you can stash him. But they could just change formations and push Diggs back outside and then use Demario Douglas more. So monitor, like, Douglas and Kyle Williams are both worth stashing, but at least probably a game to watch to see how they deploy them if Boutte is out for significant time. 49ers and Giants. Hey, the 49ers made it out pretty healthy. That's a change. On the Giants side, they mostly did, but Tyrone Tracy got banged. Actually, Darius Slayton got banged up again late in the game, but Tracy was banged up late in the game, and it was already a 55-45 split. Before that, Tyrone Tracy was the biggest and must add in all the leagues, and it's a disappointment. But I'm saying this to say not like, oh, haha, come for everybody who said, go pick up Tracy, he's going to be an RB2, because the entire industry got that wrong because they didn't go back to using him like they did last year. And we did expect some Singletary work. The thing here is, this is why I keep hammering, get those backup handcuff running backs, because the thing is, if you had Tracy, you didn't have to blow all your fab and go crazy or your waiver priority and be like, oh man, I just wasted it on somebody who wasn't the one that stepped up. And instead he's already on your roster, and you can either move on from Tracy for another one or whatever it might be. That's the point, is that if you have these guys to stash, you don't have to be frustrated by like, man, I went crazy, and then it's a huge disappointment. That's more the reason too. So Colts and Steelers, you got the Colts and Giants version of Daniel Jones all rolled into one in one single game. Off-target throws, turnovers, fumbles, bad decisions. Tyler Warren was quiet. If anybody's panicking, and I don't think anybody will, but if anybody is, inexperienced managers, go get Tyler Warren. It was an off game. Tons of air yards for Alec Pierce. Actually, Alec Pierce and Troy Franklin were both hovering right around 200 air yards for this week. It's just insane. On the Steelers side of things, DK Metcalf was quiet. Jaylen Warren's still a lot of fun, but I wanted to bring up Metcalf because the Colts continue to play number one wide receivers really well this year. They've only given up really 2 good games, and one of those was Puka Nacua. Actually, Matthew Stafford and the Rams just went off in that game, but it's Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Texans and Broncos. The Texans continue to split everything possible. The backfield, all the wide receivers outside of Nico Collins. Pretty much hard to trust and use anybody. They even used Britton Brown at the goal line, or British Brooks. Britton Brown was out there too for the Britton Brown and British Brooks week. Hey, London and England, your games are over. We don't need your people anymore. Anyway, on the Broncos side of thing, I mentioned the Troy Franklin air yards. Look, he's getting so many opportunities in air yards, it's just not connecting. I just don't even know where you go, because you'd be like, hey, it should turn around at some point. But it's been weeks of we've been waiting for it to turn around, and it hasn't. RJ Harvey, though, good news, used in the passing game more this week. So maybe this is the sign of Sean Payton starting to shift a little bit. But still, an RB3 or 4 for now until we see it consistently. Jaguars and Raiders. Parker Washington, obviously the big one, going to be tops on the waivers and a lot of people's lists, including mine for wide receivers, depending on what's out there. Brian Thomas got hurt again. We got the Travis Hunter news on Friday, not even 24 hours after I traded for him in an industry league. I'm sorry, everybody. And they're just losing people left and right. Tim Patrick was out. Tim Jones and Austin Trammell were next up. So, yes, Parker Washington. But I will say this. It's still Parker Washington. I'm like, oh, he can't be good. And he does see a lot of work out of the slot, which also helps. But at the same time, when you get this far down the list of a team's depth chart, you have to start to be concerning is that teams could just stop somebody who's not supposed to be the number one. And this week they head to Houston. So it might be a pick them up and bench him for at least a week. Travis Etienne, a real good day. Nice to see that bounce back. Two things from that is not only did he get stopped from a touchdown multiple times, could have had a huge day, is that Tootin split a lot with LaQuint Allen. So Bayshall, Tootin, slimmer leagues. I hate to say it, but you can drop them. And on the Raiders side, Bowers is back. Yay. Him and Genty. That is it. No Jacoby Myers, no Trey Tucker. Maybe Jacoby gets traded. Saints and Rams, as I mentioned in the columns last week and on the chats and all that type of stuff. Tyler Shuck going to be taking more shots downfield. And I mean, I'm not like, haha, I called this. There still was telling people to be cautious, but it clearly helped Rashid Shaheed, clearly hurt Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson actually saved his day with a touchdown. But Shuck, I mean, if Shaheed doesn't get traded and Shuck's at quarterback, Shaheed going to be jumping back up into possibly even back in at wide receiver 3 value. So if he's out there, he's one to go get. On the Rams side, the Rams are just ramming. And Kyron Williams, I know everybody's going to look at the touches for Blake Corum, but still over 60%, still getting the goal line work. If we've played this game before, don't panic on Kyron Williams. Chiefs and Bills, Kareem Hunt, the lead option as expected. Actually, very heavily the lead, but they're heading to their bye. Pacheco could be back. Bills side of things were Bills. And then Seahawks and Commanders. Why do we have to end on that? Why can't we have good things? Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we just be happy? Why does the NFL world have to do this? I can't even get it out. Commanders and 49ers do not ever step in the same place at the same time. I mean, they're just waiting for somebody to have like dysentery and fall off the wagon. For all you people that are 90s kids like me and know what I'm talking about. This is just bad. I don't even know what to say. Corey Krosky-Merritt, can't even start him. Yeah, he's been unstartable for weeks. Let's just move on to the Seahawks side of things. Because yay, Sam Darnold, can start him. And Tory Horton time. Started him in all the leagues I picked him up. That one, I'm smiling. I'm not being like, haha, on that one. But it was fun to see. And if you did pick him up, do not drop him, even if Cooper Kupp is back. Because as you can tell, for the upside, Horton was out there. 2 wide receiver sets most of the game. Out there a lot. And then if anything were to happen to Kupp again, or Horton still has the opportunity to just step past Kupp at this point and push Kupp into the wide receiver 3 slot role. Which, there you go. Tory Horton would be a wide receiver 4 in that case, not quite a wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 3 more if he solidifies that job, and Kupp is out. Don't forget, we are back overseas again this week. 2 weeks in a row. Germany and Madrid coming up. 2 more Sunday mornings that you get up early. I will have the Wednesday show, as always, full waivers on the site. Discord on Thursday, Discord on Sunday. I mean, at this point, just tell your friends and all everybody to listen to this podcast. Because you're still listening, so they should be too. But are you still listening to this podcast right now? Or did you cut this off by now? Because you should have.